Good evening. Let's get the show on the road so we can all get home safely in a reasonable hour. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'll call the meeting to order. It is February 8th. Mrs. Federico was going to be late, and given that we have a shortened agenda, she may not get here at all. So we'll see how that goes, Mrs. Griffin, for the record. And due to the fact that there was no school, we have no student or staff recognition and no student reports tonight. We have no public here to commiserate with us, so we'll forego the public comment and move right into the chair's report. I'll try to be brief. On Wednesday the 17th at 6:30 p.m. in Conference Room B, I'll be presenting the Board of Education budget to the Board of Finance along with Dr. Fieser and members of the administration. Just to let you know, you're all welcome to attend to show support if you're available. It's a small room, but you know there's seating and stuff. So just wanted to let you know that. Just for our February Committee of the Whole meeting, we'll be having a presentation on the before and after school, an update on the before and after school program, and we had asked administration to do some work on that last fall, and then we'll have a pre-K follow-up, a follow-up to the May 2014 presentation that we had. And I had some correspondence. I'm not sure if you all received this, but I wanted to let you know if you hadn't, that on this Wednesday on the 10th at 7 p.m. At the Foreign High School Media Center will be the Joseph A. Foreign High School Fine Arts Department celebration of visual and performing arts students being inducted into the chapter of the Tri-M Music Honor Society and the National Art Society. So if you care to attend that, you're welcome to. And we had gotten an email. You also saw an email from a citizen who has some concern about the medical marijuana dispensary, that the two of them that are going to be going in different locations in the city. So I did have a conversation with Mayor Blake about this, and he explained that they are licensed by the state of Connecticut, not by the city. And they are highly regulated. There are currently 3 facilities in the state, and then 3 additional licenses have been granted after a rigorous application process conducted by the Department of Consumer Protection. So they are the ones who actually grant the licenses, which include the location, and then the city's oversight is then directed by planning and zoning regulations, which were recently adopted and define the areas where facilities can be constructed and the business can be conducted. So he did indicate that he's in the process of setting up a meeting with residents in the areas that have some concerns and the State Department of Consumer Protection and some others. And Ms. Tobias is going to attend the meeting and report back to us on some of the information that's shared. The date hasn't been confirmed yet, but I would say if board members have any specific questions or concerns, if they email Suzanne and let her know what they are, she can raise them at the meeting. And then, you know, she'll report back to us. You know, really from the board's perspective, this would be a matter of not our personal opinions on this, but on what effect it may or may not have on the school district and the schools and the students. Mr. DeGrego is the liaison to the Milford Prevention Council, which does a great job partnering with the school district in terms of education, and so this might be something for you to keep your ears and eyes on as you go to those meetings in the coming months, and let us know if they have any specific, you know, issues that they are going to be addressing.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay, and then Cave Day on the Hill is coming up on March 2nd, which is it's a day up in Hartford that the Connecticut Association of Boards of Education coordinates, and it's just a time where the public can go and meet with the different legislators. In the past, the PTAs have organized trips up. I think many years ago, the board actually organized a little trip up for, you know, put together a group that went up. So if you, I think maybe I'll scan this and send it off to everybody if you have any interest in attending. It's during the week. It starts at 8:30 in the morning. But I'll send, it has the agenda and stuff on it. Did you guys get this in the mail yourselves?
Yeah.
If you got it yourself, then I won't bother doing that. Okay. And that's it for my board report, my chair's report. Liaison reports. Mr. DeGrego, you had a quick liaison report?
Yes, I did. Madam Chair, thank you. Through you.
Yes.
You know, I like to speak off the cuff usually, but I have to read this one because I don't want to make any mistakes. All right? Sometimes I make a mistake and I get help from my partners over here. All right. The Milford Prevention Council met on January 13th, and we looked at the statistical deaths of heroin in Connecticut. Statewide, in 2014, I think some of the big cities had 20 of these heroin deaths. Milford alone had 14. So what I spoke to Wendy Gibbons to get the correct accuracy so I could report to you each month. Wendy said that the Milford Prevention Council will discuss with our state reps on possibly hosting a heroin education town forum in the future in Milford. And I'll keep you up to date on that, when that will be. It's something that the state representatives are working on, and when I know the date, I'll let you know, and the Milford community as well. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Are there other liaison reports? Dr. Gregory?
I attended the Milford Education Foundation meeting and was really impressed by the work they were doing. They're planning for a lot of events, including events this spring, and they appreciated the science career pathway that was, the computer science career pathway that was being implemented in the budget, and they just wanted to keep pushing science and technology forward.
Great. I think they're planning their
Innovation
Invention Convention and Minds in Motion, which is a Connecticut Association of Gifted Education, that they run an event in Milford through them for, it's a statewide event that has different workshops.
My daughter has attended that. It's excellent.
Yeah. Other liaison reports, Mrs. Krasinski?
Permanent School Building Committee. Mrs. Federico and I attended last week, East Shore Middle School. There's still some issues with the HVAC units. They took a sampling of the 10 largest units because the contractor said they've completed all the items. They took a sampling of 10 of the largest units and 20% still had problems. So they're going to go back and look at everything again before they bring in Van Zellen, the commissioning agent, so they're not spending any more money. So that's still a couple months off. For West Shore School, the committee selected the commissioning agent. I don't have the name with me, and I don't know if it's been awarded yet. So, and they gave us an update on the design. It's coming along very nicely. Jonathan Law, we got an update from Antonazzi Associates on the flooring samples, and we selected those for, they're going to be removing asbestos this summer and doing new floors, especially in the hallways on the first floor and in the auditorium. And then we approved the roof projects, which will be coming to us to approve after. That's it.
PTA Council, do you want me to do that?
Oh, yes.
Tom and I went to PTA Council. I'll just quickly, Pam Staneski was there, and there was a lengthy conversation with her. She had a lot of useful information about some of the things that are going on up at the state level. She's on the education committee, and there's just a lot of ongoing conversations about a variety of topics. Artificial turf is something that's they've been talking about. Full-day kindergarten is now mandatory in Connecticut, which she said, which I didn't know that. Have you heard that, Dr. Fieser?
No.
Not that it would affect us, because we've had it for a long time. And a lot of other, we went over a lot of different things that they've been working on. They had a very productive session last session, and they're now just going back into their short session at this point. And then you attended the legislative breakfast?
Yeah, Dr. Fieser and I attended the CABE legislative breakfast in Derby. Very well attended. I think 36 people actually signed up for the breakfast. Two of our legislators, Senator Gail Salzberg and Representative Pam Stanesky, both who represent Milford, were at the session, and both of them are on education committees in the legislature. There was a lot of discussion about special ed funding, especially large $100,000 plus funding that can wreak havoc on individual board budgets, really encouraging the legislators to come up with a way to, so that it wouldn't have that kind of impact on individual boards. On one side, the board members and the administrators were concerned about their budgets, and on the other side, the answer from the legislatures was generally, Connecticut has no money, there's nothing that we can do given the current situation, etc. There was also discussions about testing. The legislators pointed out that a lot of the testing that we're doing currently has been federally mandated, and there was a recent change in the federal law, and so they're investigating now to see if we'll have additional flexibility in terms of testing and possibly cutting back on testing. And there was also, I think, a strong consensus among the people who were there, hope that the state of Connecticut would not be cutting back on mental health funding. Someone made the point that students today are, they use the term fragile, and I think that that's appropriate, more fragile than they used to be. And there's more requirement for mental health support for the students. And so, they asked the legislators to, try and keep that in mind as they go forward with the budgeting. Very good session.
Great. Sounds like it was. Anybody have any questions on that? This is, I'm glad that you were able to go. Thank you. Any other liaison reports? Okay, then we'll move on to superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mrs. Glennon. We're not going to have the instructional division highlight tonight. We were going to have teachers and some building administrators as well as some supervisors come and talk about the value of the professional learning that takes place on Wednesday afternoons and also the early release Wednesdays as part of the calendar, but because of the having no school, we couldn't expect people to come. So we'll have to revisit that. But before I get into the academic calendar, is it all right if I announce some good news that we just received?
Sure.
From the Milford Education Foundation, and you were talking about the foundation. They've awarded 11 teacher mini grants. This is the third year that the foundation is awarding teacher grants, and they received 21 proposals this past fall for mini grants. They awarded 11 to the tune of $6,700. And it brings the total support that the Milford Foundation has given to the school system to $24,000, which is really outstanding that we receive this kind of support. So I'm not going to read all the grant names and what they involve because that's lengthy and we can send you that information, but if all right, I just would like to read the 11 recipients and their school. So we have Karen Scapino Kristen from John F. Kennedy, Michelle Haramis from Jonathan Law, Aaron Zarneski from Foreign High, Lisa Vecino from West Shore, Lisa Norrie from Harborside, Stephanie Schutterman from Harborside, Mary Lavery from Foreign, Jeffrey Stanton from Jonathan Law, John or Jack Connors from Foreign, Lisa Farrell from Foreign, and Mary Ann Minicello from CAF 10. So those are the 11 teachers, a pretty representative group from across the district. And as I said, we'll let you know of the specifics of the grants. And you should know that in May, the foundation on a Saturday morning holds a breakfast where the grant recipients then come and share, not all 11 because it would take forever, but several of them share, what they were able to accomplish as a result of the grants. And it's a pretty exciting event, to attend on a Saturday morning, because you just really see what a small amount of money can do in the hands of teachers who really want to, make a difference by doing something very different in their classrooms. So we thank the foundation for its support. The foundation has just been wonderful. They actually sent us all 21 applications, and Mr. Burt reviewed them carefully and provided feedback to the committee. So it was great that they were able to be involved, that he was able to be involved in the reading of the grants. I did as well, but I didn't weigh in. I allowed him to do that. So it's pretty exciting.
Thank you.
Okay. So with that, I'm going to turn to the proposed 2016-17 academic calendar. And as indicated in the agenda form that is attached to the calendar itself, there are some significant changes. This is the first year that there is a mandated regional calendar. This is across the state. So a few years ago, there was a major move by the legislators to move toward, or a particular, I should say, it was Representative Sharkey, I think, was the person who really sponsored the original bill, wanted one state calendar, and there was such pushback across the state that what the compromise was to go to regional calendars. And the regions are established by regional educational centers, the RESCs, so to speak. So we are affiliated with ACES in Hamden, Fairfield County, the lower Fairfield County is associated with CES, which is, I forget what the C is, but Educational Service Center. There's CREC, which is the Hartford region. So whatever region you're in, the regions were mandated to develop a common calendar. So there are several pieces of the calendar by law that have to be established and that are non-negotiable. And I listed what is required under the law, 180 days of school minimum, uniform days for professional development and in-service training, not more than 3 uniform school vacation periods. Notice it's uniform vacation periods during each school year, not more than 2 of which shall be a 1-week school vacation period, and 1 which shall be during the summer. And then the non-negotiables, which are listed here. So August 25th is the Regional Professional Development Day. That's non-negotiable, so we will have a PD day on that day. August 29th, which is a Monday, is the first day of school for all students. That's a major change for Milford. For years, I don't know how long, but for years Milford has always had its first day of school on Wednesday of the week. This past year, we actually had it on Thursday because we always had professional development days in advance. We would have professional development day on Monday and the convocation day on Tuesday, or last year we had a 3rd day because of the reconfiguration. What this is saying is, nope, the first day of school for all students is Monday, the 29th. Another regional professional development day, which we always have anyways, is Election Day, which is November 8th. The holiday recess is defined December 26th through January 2nd. The regional February recess is defined. So in the last 3 years, we've taken our February recess as Friday, like this Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday, President's Day. The regional calendar will move it now to Monday and Tuesday. Again, it's non-negotiable. All of us will be off on President's Day and the day after next year. And then the April vacation, that week is also dictated by the regional calendar. So those are the pieces that are non-negotiable. And then what regions are able to do under the law is to give districts some flex days with which to work. So the calendar that you have, we were able to honor some of the pieces that we put into the calendar 3 years ago when the board directed us to find 5 days that we were out of school and basically get kids into school. That was because of all the snow days. So, and we also then, so some of these days were in school that we have not been in. So Columbus Day and Veterans Day are days that we are in school. whereas we are out of school on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So those are considered some of the flex days that, under the regional calendar. You could have, like New Haven has, and Bridgeport, well, Bridgeport's not in our region, but New Haven, I believe, has Three Kings Day. That would be a flex day that they could have. Durham, from what I understand, for the Durham Fair, there is a day off for students, so that's one of those flex days. So the calendar you have before you, as indicated, you can see that the 29th of August is the first day of school. The mandated professional development day is the 25th. We will have our second day on the 26th. That's what PL means, professional learning, and the 26th will be our convocation day. And then I'm going to go through the major pieces first tied to the calendar and then go back on the early release days. So what you see is, we are in school, we are out of school in October for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. That's the 3rd of October and the 12th, I believe. Yes. We are also out of school for professional learning on November 8th. That's a mandated day. We are also, the December holidays goes that whole week, 26th through the 30th, and then also January 2nd. I'm sure that's the mandated holiday. Everybody has to be given a holiday, and when a holiday falls on a weekend, then people are entitled to another holiday. So for example, all our custodians, et cetera, would be entitled to another holiday. And then on the February, as I said, there's the February break, which is the 20th and 21st. The April vacation is the second week of April, which is the 10th through the 14th, and I believe the 14th might be Good Friday, which may be the reason why it was moved into that week. I believe that's the case. And then we have, and then of course, we have 181 instructional days in our calendar, which takes us up to the 6th of June being our last day of school, the 7th being for staff. Nope, am I right? No, the 7th is the last day of school. Sorry, the 8th would be, well, depending upon how we do our PD days, the 8th could be for staff, but the 7th is the last day for staff and students right now. So I indicated to you in the agenda form that there are 4 professional development days that we give to teachers. 2 are before school, 1 is on the election day, and the 4th, the last 5 years, I believe, has been the day after we get out of school, the day after the last day for students. Set aside this past year configuration, because that was a little different, but it's been, it was moved to the end of June after school let out, and the reason for that, from what I understand, is because of all the snow days. It had been for years in March. There was a professional development day in March, and then there were so many snow days, it was moved to the end of the year and taken out of March. And then this past year, we took it from the end of the year and we moved it up to August to enable the smoothness of the reconfiguration with kindergarten orientation, et cetera. So what we are in this proposed calendar is asking, this is both the MEA, which is your Teachers Association, and the administrators have asked, can we restore moving the professional development day back into during the year, the second half of the school year? Folks, both teachers as well as the administrators, feel that it's really beneficial, so we have one in November to be able to have one after the second semester begins, and they've had an opportunity to examine their data, for example, for, all of the mid-year assessments that are given, NWEA, for example, and take a look at the kids' performance, or the PSAT, well, not the PSAT, but the NWEA, even in terms of in 9th grade, be able to take a look at that kind of data and, sort of say, okay, where are our strengths and where's the areas that we need to emphasize, and is there training that needs to be done, et cetera? Are there things that we've been working on that we want to give more attention to? So what you see in the calendar is a professional learning day on February 8th. Now you may say, why isn't it in March? Because March is testing. March is Smarter Balance. We have the SAT is now March 2nd, and then Smarter Balance will begin, and it will go between the the elementaries and the middle schools. It will go probably over 4 weeks. And I don't mean 4 weeks all day long, but it's the idea of you having sufficient computers, and there are computers that are moved from the elementary up to the middle schools, so that there's sufficient number of computers in the middle schools for kids to be able to take them in an appropriate window. So we avoided March, even though that was what was done in the last several years, and we've moved it to February. What is also in the calendar, which has been for several years, are the 6 early release days, and that's what we were going to have people address tonight, had they been able to come. What I will say is that what you need to understand with respect to meetings after school, because a lot of people say, well, why don't you just have people meet after schools? Under the contract, we can have people stay for 4 Wednesdays in a month. That's contractual, no more. One of those is building-based, one of those is departmental or grade level based, one of them is for what's called the professional learning communities. Every teacher has to be part of a team of teachers centered on either a problem of practice or something that they're working on, and once a month they come together to collaborate around improving instruction. And then there is one on, what did I leave out here? The faculty, your faculty meetings for each of the buildings. Those are the 4 designated days. 3 out of the 4 are 1-hour meetings. One, which is the professional learning community afternoon, is 1.5 hours. So those are designated. Any other professional learning that we would want to do with teachers, we will have to pull them out and hire substitutes, which really becomes costly. It's costly both in terms of the impact on students, costly also financially. So what we have done, and quite honestly, I would say the majority of districts in the state, is designated some early release days. So we have 6 Wednesdays where actually teachers are in professional learning for, I think it's 2.5 to 3 hours, because it's an early release, and then there's time added to that, so that they really can engage in some substantive learning. So I'll give you an example. At one of our elementary schools just this past Wednesday, the first hour plus of the meeting was spent on NWEA, because all of the mid-years had been given to students. Teachers had received their scores back. There was an introduction so that everybody could see overall the school's performance, and then by grade level, et cetera. They had looked at, how many points, what was the growth that they saw in kids. And then what teachers were asked to do is to dig deeper into the data. And so for a solid hour, individual teachers, or by grade levels, they looked at their data and their grade level data, to digging deeper to say, what else are you seeing in the data? And then they came back. There was, lots of sharing. There were some surprises on the part of teachers in terms of what they gleaned, et cetera. And it was so much more powerful because you had teachers doing it as opposed to the principal standing up there and saying, here, I saw this, I saw this, I saw this. So that was one major piece. Then the second major piece was a whole piece on building relationship with kids, and how if you're going to raise performance, and a critical piece is develop relationships with students. So there was, you know, an exercise that teachers engaged in where they had to reflect back on, you know, a teacher or a mentor that really influenced them, and what was it that that person did that made them either be better as a student or to feel better, you know, as a person. What strategies did that person use? How did they connect with them, et cetera? And then start to look at what are the strategies that they might employ with respect to kids. And they, you know, and so the small groups, they came up with really powerful lists of things that they could do on a daily basis to really kind of connect with kids. Then they moved to reading an article on poverty. This happened to be a school that has a high percentage of students with free and reduced, and you know, and the fact that, you know, we have to come to know kids' culture. We have to come to, you know, kids' individual academic needs, but we also need to we need also to understand the factor that economics have on kids. So they read this article, and then, you know, had to pull out pieces that were poignant with respect to the article, and there was some discussion there. And then they moved to the last piece, which is a strategy that the whole school committed to, the whole faculty committed to engaging in, that could start to develop relationships immediately with particularly a student maybe who's you don't connect with easily. So what I've described, you could never get done in an hour, is my point. And so that's just one example. I mean, I happened to observe part of that afternoon session, which is why I know it in detail. But you know, my point is that we really make good use of these Wednesdays, and so that's why we have the 6 in here. And again, you'll hear more, but we kept those in there, and then we asked, could we have the full professional development day that's normally at the end of the year, could we move it into the year itself? So with that, I'll stop. You also see that there's conferences in here. The conference dates have been put in here, but those are standard. And I'll answer any questions that anybody may have.
I see 7 rectangles for early dismissal, and only 1 has the parentheses for staff and students. So that one, that's just because it's a half day? The staff and student one is just
Half day.
Oh, Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Okay, and so the other 6 squares are professional development days?
Correct.
Other than the 2 at the end of the year, which is just normal.
Mm-hmm. Which is
And that day in February would be a day off for students?
Yes.
The PL day? Okay.
Right.
Mr. Jagosinski?
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I was wondering, do you know what the rationale was from the legislator wanting to regionalize the calendars?
A major, I think, catalyst was a desire to do more regionalization of services. So particularly with small districts, so could there be sharing of professional development? So if we're bringing in an expert in a particular and we're paying big bucks, that we could open it up to other districts. I think also transportation might be a means, because if everybody's on the same calendar, and you know, whatever, there's in special education, if students are going to a particular site and there's a couple of districts, could they reduce their transportation costs? You know, so I think that was the major intent. I don't know if there was other things in your jurisdiction or if there's other things you can think of, but those were 2.
That were.
And there's also, I don't think this was a major reason for it, but it does happen, although it's still going to happen because of where we're located. You know, families were just being pulled apart because depending upon, you know, a mother could work in one district, the father could work in another, and the kids are going to a third, and you never have the same, you know, spring vacation, for example, or the same start day. Or what I was going to say is that, and I've talked with Mrs. Krasinski about this, the difficulty is that we live right at the end of our region. And we have students that go to Trumbull Ag and students that go to aquaculture. I have not seen the Fairfield County that regional calendar. But I don't know if it's comparable to ours with respect to the April vacation, the start of the school year. I don't know.
Right. The other thing is, are there any days that we have off this year, holidays, that type of thing, that we're not going to have off next year? The question is there anything that's going to be controversial You know, if we didn't have Good Friday off, that potentially is controversial, but that's taken care of. Is there anything like that that you've
The only
seen?
thing that I think that there may be some pushback, but it's non-negotiable, is starting school on a Monday. And the reason I say that is, and now again, I'm not an elementary person, but it's exhausting, particularly for little kids, to go at the start of school 5 straight days. I've heard
Right.
that many a time, not just in Milford, I've heard it in other districts as well. So oftentimes districts will start in the middle of the week
Right.
for students. So there may be some, some pushback about that. I'm sure with respect to the teachers' union, they would have preferred to have, again, start on a Wednesday and have the professional development days on Monday and Tuesday. They know it's non-negotiable. But, we did go to them and just say, well, okay, when would you want the other professional development? Do you want it on a Friday? Do you want it on a Wednesday? They wanted it on a Friday, so, so
Right.
it's Thursday and Friday, that kind of a thing. So
Right.
other than that, there should not be.
Okay. The other thing is, the half-days are always controversial.
Right.
And I was wondering if we couldn't compare our half-days with the other 3 districts we typically compare with,
Sure.
Southington, Wallingford, so we could have some idea. Are our number of half-days similar, in fact, to what similar school districts are doing?
Sure, what I can also do is, our area,
Right.
which is the south central area, which is this calendar is built
Right.
on, is that I could also just pull them from, ask people, how many they have.
Right.
Just so we can get a, at least then we have a sense of the region in which
Right.
we're in.
Okay.
I had 2 things I wanted, are you done? I'm sorry.
Yes, I am.
Speaking of half-days, the June 5th and 6th, and I'm assuming the 7th, are all half-days, according to this.
And I'd have to defer to Mrs. Capasma because that's been around for a long time, correct?
Yeah, it changed a few years ago. I think it's either the last 2 or the last 3, but I'm pretty sure it's the last 3 days.
I thought that it changed, I thought it was done a few years ago for a specific issue that had happened throughout the year that the teachers had to be accommodated for. So I'm curious as to why we're still doing it.
No, I think, well, is the 7th the last day?
The 7th is the last day of school, so I understand that that's always a half day of school, but I'm wondering why is the 5th and the 6th also a half a day? That seems excessive to me.
Yeah, I don't recall if it was 2 or 3. I know there was an MOU with the union on that. We'll have to check into that.
Could we get some background on that?
Yeah, definitely.
Please? And then the other thing I wanted to ask, the note at the bottom regarding snow day, making up snow days.
Right.
Should more days be needed, they will be deducted from the April 2016 vacation beginning with April 14th, which is Good Friday.
That's my question.
That's good.
So,
So it should be April 3rd,
13th,
13th, correct.
and then going backwards?
And going backwards, right.
That doesn't make a lot of sense.
Going backwards doesn't make sense?
Not if you have Good
Not if you have
Friday.
Good Friday off.
April 10th maybe. Start with the Monday.
We do,
'Cause then
So
you'd
I'm
still
only
have
going
block
on what was
days.
in place when we came in, which was that we moved backwards, so kids would, so it's for the continuity, for students that they would then go to school up through the 7th, and they come back in school on the 10th, the 11th, the 12th, and then if they need be, they would be off the 13th and 14th. That was the rationale, as opposed to, so instead of, they would get off the 10th, come back into school for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then be off for Friday. So it was working backwards. That was my understanding. Mrs. Capasma, do you help me out here, because this is.
Yeah, but I think what they're saying is if we take a day on Thursday and then we're off Friday, in this case.
Chopping
because-
it up.
Because Good Friday doesn't normally, sometimes it's not always in our vacation week. So in this case, we may want to consider if they have to go to school on Monday, and then they still have the rest of the week off. Is that what you guys are saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And is that contractual, is there any contractual issue there?
It would be fine if we were to switch.
I'm going to guess that the regional calendar, that they're potentially always going to pick the week that has Good Friday in it if it's in April. So that might be something that we might want to put that in place as a practice, that we, instead of going backwards, you go from the first day forwards for making up snow days. That way you're not breaking up the week. I think that's.
Because you're adding days back in.
You're-
Right. I'm not following though, because if you're off on Monday and then you're off on Friday, you're breaking up the beginning of the week and then you're the end of the week.
No, you'd be in on
In on
Monday.
In
So
on
rather,
Monday, off
if we
the
need to
rest.
make up snow days from the April
Right.
vacation, rather than making the kids have off 10th, 11th, and 12th, going in on the 13th, and then they're off again on the 15th.
No.
Go the,
The other way.
Yes.
so you would start taking away from the 10th. They'd be in on the 10th and then off the rest of the week. Then they'd be in on the 10th and the 11th and be off the rest of the week. if we
Right.
need to.
Yeah, okay. We were
Yeah.
saying the same thing. I'm sorry. I was saying the same thing. Yeah. So they would be, right.
So it would read beginning with April 10th and working through the week would be the change.
Well, the sentence reads, they will be deducted,
Mhm.
which means that they will be off.
Which means you come to school.
No, deducted means they would come to school, because they're already off.
Because if you're beginning on the 14th, means you're starting here and working back.
Which normally, if Good Friday was there, that would make more sense because they could go away for the weekend and go all the way through 3/4 of the week.
Right.
But with Good Friday, that does change it, I think, a bit.
Okay.
So what would the language read?
Should more days be needed, they will be deducted or taken, I don't know if one's better, makes more sense, from the April 2016 vacation beginning with April 10th.
And moving forward.
Right, okay. All right then.
Is there a need to put on, to state on here that April 14th would be a holiday regardless? I mean, what if we were to make up 5 snow days from the April vacation? Would we take away Good Friday? Would we decide that on a case-by-case basis, or would that be,
I would recommend that we not take away Good Friday.
okay, so
So we could designate it as.
I would designate it then. I know it doesn't make sense to designate something that's falling during a vacation week, but I think it might be important to state on the calendar that Good Friday would be preserved as a holiday, should we have a lot of snow days, somehow.
Create a special
Special
symbol for that day. It doesn't fall under the other ones, really.
Days. So we did that, something like 14, will 17 days of snow days.
No, I understand that, that's the way it's been forever, you know, but we don't want. Right,
Yeah.
I get that.
So we can come up with a new.
Okay.
Something else.
True.
Okay.
Then I would say go back to Friday, but in this
Okay.
case, you know.
Teachers till the 30th.
So this is a first reading, which means the board has an opportunity, as well as the public. I want you to know I did share this with the PTA advisory, which are the presidents of the PTA. The only thing that I did not at the time have was the February professional learning. But the other pieces, I had, actually given them draft copies and then collected them back because it may not have been finalized. So, they were aware of that. And of course, we shared it also with MEA, and they weighed in on, when to put the professional development. And they're the ones who said, is there any way we could restore what was then the March day? So we have a month to get feedback from the public, or you yourself may hear feedback.
I'm going to caution you, Dr. Fieser, one of those presidents still has her calendar, because when we were at the meeting,
okay.
I mentioned it, and there was some discussion about the first day of school, and she whipped out
Whipped it
this
out. Well,
calendar.
she's the person who,
I said-
well, I know who it is because she left early.
Okay, so.
So,
I think the important piece with this, if you have conversation with constituents, is that there's parts of this that's non-negotiable, so. Yes, Mrs.
Just one more question. Where it says that the regional calendar can have no more than 3 uniform vacation periods, what does that mean by uniform? Is that,
in essence, I think what they're saying is you can't take any more vacation than the 2 days for February vacation. the winter vacation in December and then the April. So if there was a district that wanted to take longer than a week,
They wanted to use their 3 days in February and take a full, they
if they
can't.
wanted to, they cannot, because the law says it's no more than, did it say no more than three? Or- Right,
Yeah.
okay, well, actually, they could then in February, but if they say they wanted to do something more than that.
It just says 2 1-week vacations
One
and then one's the
week, so
summer.
they can't take the full February. If it's 2 full week and you're doing April and you're also doing the winter in December, then you cannot take the full week, which that would be a real change because there are still districts that have the full. Not many, more than 50%, don't have it any longer. But that's what that means.
That is confusing. I read that differently, that I read it a little differently, but,
I think they're saying one of the 3 is the summer vacation.
right,
Right.
correct.
And then the other 2 can't be more than a week
So that's it, so if you get a week at Christmas
in April.
in April.
And that means that if Good Friday falls in April, it will always be a part of the week because you couldn't have the Friday and then the week.
Right, because you can't have more than a week. So then I guess we know when our April vacations are from here on out.
Any other questions? Okay, so this will be back on our agenda in March.
Correct. So the next item on the agenda is the Human Resources Report. Mrs. Kapowski?
Thank you, Dr. Peterson. You have my monthly report listing the job postings, personnel recommendations, as well as the retirements, resignations, terminations, and stipend appointments. You can see it's a light report. Not too many job openings right now, which is good. We're always looking for substitutes and long-term substitutes, but this is typically the time of year where we're hopefully fully staffed and then waiting, for the next cycle, for the following school year. We are up to, I think, about 8 retirements so far, with another 3 or 4 that we're definitely aware of, but we haven't received official notification from the teachers yet on those. So hopefully we're on track to have the average amount that we normally do.
Questions for Mrs. Pazna? Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all that I have.
All right, then we move on to the consent agenda. Ms. Tobias?
Okay, make a motion that the Milford Board of Education approves the educational specifications for the roof replacement project at Harborside Middle School and authorize the superintendent to apply for state reimbursement from the State of Connecticut Department of Administrative Services, Office of School Construction Grants. Make a motion that the Milford Board of Education approves the plans, specifications, and estimates for the roof replacement project at Harborside Middle School. Make a motion that the Milford Board of Education approves the consent agenda items 2 and 3, disbursement reports, and the consideration of minutes from the business meeting of January 11th, 2016, special meeting of January 13th, 2016, special meeting of January 14th, 2016, and a special meeting of January 20th, 2016.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Krasinski seconds. No, we're all thrown off. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we had no new business for tonight. On to board comment. Any board comment? You seeing none, I'll take a motion to go into executive session.
I make a motion to adjourn into executive session to discuss the mid-year evaluation of Superintendent Feaser. Dr. Feaser is invited into the session.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Whiskeyman? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we will convene into executive session. We do have to come back here when we're done, just to adjourn.
7:48. You guys can go to Jeff's conference room.
For the whole week.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Who seconded?
Somebody.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We adjourn at 8:04.
Everybody drive careful home.
I have a driver too.
I was afraid they were going to tell her she'd stay.